Welcome to episode 8 of Stand Up Sales. Dylan Rich, what's up, dude?
Not much, dude. How was your Christmas? They celebrate that weekend?
Yeah, yes they do. It was good. It was quiet. A little family affair. We did like a little pre-Christmas one. I saw my little nephew, cute, like 6 months old.
Nice.
Yeah.
So all your family's like close to you?
Yeah, fairly close. Most, if not everyone, lives in London.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
What about you?
Yeah, I went back to Jersey.
Is that cold as balls?
Dude, it was like, so I don't know, obviously you don't know about American weather, but we had like this crazy cold front, like the entire country got hit by it. And in Florida, it was like 32, which is like Siberia.
Yeah, that's cold.
People were freaking out. People were wearing like parkas. But no, we landed in Jersey. It was like -9 with the wind chill.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was like a 70-degree decrease of what I'm used to. I was so cold, dude. But it was really nice to see family. It's been a long time because no family's in Florida. So.
I was gonna say, are all your family in Jersey?
Yeah, everyone's in Jersey pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. What's on the agenda today?
Yeah. So if you've been following along, hopefully you have. If not, go back and watch our previous episodes. But we've been kind of going through the sales funnel in regards to like how to do a discovery, 1 to 2 call closes, how to do a demo, how to actually close deals, make people show up. But you're not really going to be able to get to those stages effectively without the right tools and the right metrics. So this call, we're kind of speaking to small business owners, people who run small sales teams. We're going to be going over and covering like what tools you should invest in because there's like 100,000 SaaSes out there. So it's hard to pick the right ones and where to be efficient with your money. And then once we go into that, like what metrics you should be keeping an eye on, which ones are kind of vanity metrics, so you can actually have more discovery and close calls. And as people who have their own SaaSes, I think we're pretty well equipped to have these conversations.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think the first one that people wait for is a CRM. Like I talked to a bunch of people who like run their business through Excel and like Google Sheets and like.
I spoke to a founder for our SaaS today, and he said that he was running like a 15 client lead gen agency entirely through Asana, and I was like, stop that, stop it, get off Asana immediately. This is not for what you need.
Yeah, because a lot of people use Monday, Asana, ClickUp as like CRMs. They're not. They're project management tools that parlay with your CRM. Yeah. Because they don't have specific data. No. So I guess what is your favorite CRM?
So I've used a bunch of different ones, like a shit ton. And like the one thing that I will say off the bat, I fucking hate Pipedrive. And I know that's the big sexy one that everyone talks about. Is, use Pipedrive. No, don't use Pipedrive. Pipedrive sucks. I hate Pipedrive. It is janky. It is way too complex for like 99% of people. And the reality of the situation is you start using Pipedrive and then you get used to the complexity of it. And then you don't switch to inevitably a better tool that you will be able to use better because you're too invested in having used fucking Pipedrive for the last year or however it is.
Yeah, we've had a few clients that, so like, obviously what we do is we're kind of a sales enablement tool. So it sits on top of your CRM. So we have to migrate and do a lot of data migration to and from CRMs. And Pipedrive's terrible. Like the export feature and like just the way it's set up, especially with Zapier, it's just like not cool.
Yeah.
There's so many better for that price point.
100%. I've used Close. I don't mind Close. Close is a little bit dense. That's my only gripe with Close. In terms of a CRM, I think it's probably one of the best ones out there on the market in reality. But like, you gotta to set up a client on Close is like a full day's work if you want to do it properly. It's like a lot of shit that you need to get through. So in reality, like unless you have that time available or you have a really shit hot SOP or someone internally who can do it, I would say even Close is probably overkill for most people.
Yeah, Close is good because it's like a roll-up software, right? Where like obviously the gold standard is Salesforce, right? And Salesforce doesn't have any of like the sexy outbound tools. It is strictly like data, right? Yeah. Customer relationship management at its core, right? But like Close is a nice mix, especially if you're a small company, small sales team. or even a small marketing team, it's going to allow you to do your emails and your calls and your tasks and follow-ups. The one thing I don't like about Close is like the reporting is just not there.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's just a bit weirdly done.
Yeah. So I think like obviously HubSpot is probably like the most popular, right? Or like that's what you should be aiming to be using because they're probably like the B plus of everything. Mm-hmm. Like the CRM's fine, the outbound's fine, the reporting is probably the best besides Salesforce with HubSpot. The only thing that kind of is like weird with HubSpot is like it takes someone like dedicated to getting it ready. Oh, here he goes. He knows hey, bud. Yep. But yeah, HubSpot is good. You just need someone to like set it up properly. So a lot of the CRMs, like you can just have it and like have it work at its bare minimum. But like to have it actually be an integral part of your company to help you grow and scale, like you're going to need to dedicate time to building it correctly.
Or find someone who can do it, right?
Yeah.
So like there's a guy that we know called Connor Skelly. He is a HubSpot admin. He will come in and build the whole fucking thing for you. Yeah. And the reality of it is, like, if you use Fish and Agency, they will build your HubSpot to whatever you need it to, specific to your business. And if you try and do that with no HubSpot knowledge, you will do one of two things. You will fuck it up, or you just won't do it because it's too much work. So then you just have a shitty piece of software that doesn't do the thing that you need to do.
Yeah, a half-assed CRM is almost as bad as not having one.
100%.
Because then the data is disparate and it's even worse. Because the whole point of a CRM is to centralize your contact data, your opportunities, your pipeline, and your clients. So you know from a moment's notice of like, this is the number of clients that have booked calls. Of the clients that have booked calls, they have now gone into this stage or they're not a fit. So if you don't know where your contacts are, like so much money can just slip through your fingers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then on like the, I guess the alternate tiers, you know, you have like Go High Level, you have Pipedrive, you have HubSpot, you have Close. Zoho is miserable. I wouldn't even look at them. They're Zoho it's like what is that?
I heard like Zoho is like the shitty version of everything.
Yeah. If you have Zoho and you're listening to this, like immediately look at new tools.
Yeah.
Because you've been sold.
You've been sold a dream.
Yeah. And then obviously Salesforce, right? Like, but a lot of people, like, if you're starting a business, like, you know about Salesforce, they've probably reached out to you. Like, you don't truly need Salesforce if you're under, like, 20 employees. Yeah. The big thing about Salesforce is that it helps with team collaboration. We have a client of ours, they just rolled out Salesforce across like their marketing, their client success, their sales, their operations, their billing. I think it was like 250 G's or something. They spent a pretty
That's the other side of Salesforce, right? Yeah, you want Salesforce? Go for it. Enjoy the bill. Because the bill is going to fuck you.
Yeah. But it's like
you get
the absolute best thing.
You get everything.
Yeah. But yeah, CRM is probably my most, like the first SaaS you should be purchasing is a CRM. Because you can you want it from day one, right? You don't want to build like a $40,000, $50,000 business and then have to migrate and change all your SOPs and the way your whole company works. Yeah. Like just bite the bullet, start it from day one or, you know, month one, couple months in, but have that as your foundation for everything else.
I literally remember, so we still use Go High Level for ours, but it's taken us the best part of like a year and a half to build it into something that is actually usable for us, right? Yeah. But we started on Pipedrive, and I remember literally starting the agency, and I was like, right, CRM, I know I need to go and buy one of these. Let me go and find what, in my mind, I got either recommended, or I can see from like reading reviews, because I'm not a complete moron, like which one is the best one, right? And in all the reviews, it's HubSpot, then Pipedrive, or at least what it was when, you know, I was starting 2 years ago.
That's just good SEO.
Yeah, it's great SEO, 100%, right? And it's paying people to do very positive listicles, right? But I went onto it, and literally the first thing I looked at, I was like, none of this is intuitive at all.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I just have to kind of tough it out, right? And I kind of kept using Pipedrive, and then someone, and I don't remember who, mentioned Go High Level, and I was like, oh, let me look at this. I'm like, oh shit, it's like fucking $300 a month. And then I was like, wait, it's $300 a month for all of this shit? Okay, wait, this is worthwhile.
Yeah.
So now we paid it, and we were like, okay, we can customize basically everything in this. This is perfect. We use this.
Yeah, as you know, I'm a high level nerd. I've been pretty into that software. I help consult people on building their own, but yeah, high level gives you like a chassis of a really good car. You have to put like the tires,
Everything
the gas,
in
the glass, the mirrors, like everything, right? But they give you like the best foundation for a SaaS because you could do so much inside high level, but it takes again a long time, right? And that's something that's a good investment. Is like instead of you building it over time half-assed, like just have someone who's their specific
whole
focus
job is
doing
do
that.
this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That.
that's
And I
why
think that's
their job.
consistent across basically like all CRMs, right? Like
Yeah.
find a specialist who knows this one inside out, whatever you decide to pick, and then go to them and say, okay, I'm going to pay you whatever you want to build me this exact thing to this exact specification, so I know exactly how it works, and then teach me how to use it.
Yeah, because if you pay someone like 5 to 15 grand for like a CRM implementation, like think about like the negative, the opportunity cost, right? Like if your average lifetime value of a client is 10 grand, like do you think that you would make more sales and track things better with someone building it or without building it and then things slipping through the cracks and you're missing that money? Like it makes too much sense from an ROI over time.
100%.
And it's not like it's like a long thing. Like you don't need to employ them for like a year.
No.
They do the build out and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, it in reality probably should take between 2 and 3 months for you to get like the literal perfect thing for your business built out and ready and working, and you understand how to use it. And probably in reality, the first month is them building it. The second month is you learning how to use it.
Yeah. And like if you think about it from like that perspective, like whenever I work with vendors like that, like I learn or think outside my normal range of thinking.
Yeah.
So like they're asking me questions that I wouldn't have normally asked myself. So they're actually helping you think about your business in a better way. That's like a very unspoken thing when you work with an expert in something. Is like, oh, how are you tracking this? You're like, well, I'm not.
I'm not tracking that.
I can track that. Yeah, you can track that. You can automate it. You're like, oh shit. And that kind of brings us to our next point of like what metrics you should be looking at, early on in a business.
So you can go down this route from like the pure play accounting side, or you could go down the route from like the outbound sales side, right? So I think there's a delineation to be made between those things off the bat. It makes more sense to go down the accounting side like first, and then go down the outbound sales side. At least from my perspective. Now,
You said the accounting side?
yeah, like literally, like knowing the financials of your own business is massive in money, right? You need to understand your average customer value, right? Your customer lifetime value is probably the single biggest metric that you need to know inside out, back to front, right?
Yep.
Because if you don't know that, then how are you doing any kind of planning for the year? How many clients do you need to pay all of your salaries? How many clients do you need to do X, Y, and Z? When do these people churn? You can't track any of this shit unless you have an accurate understanding of how long clients stay with you and how much that client is worth to you.
Yeah. And like to factor those, you need other things. Like you said, churn, right? So like if your client's $5K a month, they're $60,000 for the year. But if you don't have them for a year, then it changes your, lifetime value of the client. And obviously if you're starting out new, like that's a little hard to gauge, right? Say you have like 5 clients and one is only left. Then you can't really shoot much gauge that, but you can just make ballpark estimates. Yeah. And I think the next biggest thing, right, is lifetime value, how much they're actually worth to you. The second one would be churn, so you can better understand that. And then I think 2 that are like kind of the same way is like your cost per acquisition. How much does it cost to get that client? Yep. Like, and what's associated with that is like all the SaaSes for outbound, the CRM, the salaries or commission of your salespeople, time. So you give yourself hourly wages, and each one of your people hourly wages. How much time does it take to understand like how much you need to spend to get that client? Once you get that client and fulfill that client, exactly, customer success. So once you pay to get the client, now what are they worth to you, and then what is the churn rate, and then obviously your like, costs. Hard costs of the business, and those like 4 metrics, like you should have a pretty good understanding of like where you're at and where you need to be.
100%. the reality is most people don't track at least half of this.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that. Like, even when we started the business, we were like a year in. When we were doing our first, like, year in review. We were like, okay, let's look at this metric. And I remember looking at Shenny and him being like, yeah, we really should look at that metric. And I was like, okay, cool. Went through the fucking shitty-ass CRM that we had built out at that point. And I was like, we have no idea what this is. Okay, that's a new problem we have to solve, right? And then you go and do it, right? It's obviously a massive learning curve. But, like, if I
paid an operations person.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, small.
I posted a tweet. Well, actually, no, I didn't post a tweet. I saw someone post a tweet themselves. They said, we have a chief of operations. Like, he's pretty much, like, automated himself out of a full-time role. Like, he's looking for extra work. I DM'd the guy. He put me in touch with the COO. Guy was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah?
Phenomenal. Yeah. So he, like, calculated, like, month 1, like, cost per acquisition and margins. And then month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, based on, like, the level of fulfillment and time, energy, and resources over time. So we know that, like, this is the client's worth month 1, which is usually the worst, right? Your worst margin should be the first month, right? That's when commissions come out and there's a high level of fulfillment and, like, employee time. And then over time, your margins should get better. So that's why you need to know your churn rate, because if your clients are churning before you're actually able to make a nice margin, then you have a problem. You need to fix your service delivery. But yeah, I paid for that, right? I paid for the speed. I said, hey, I need to figure this out. And he did it and did a whole calculation. Now I have that for life. And then I just changed the variables in our spreadsheet of, like, what our, package price is. Obviously, prices always change. And then we can do reverse calculations so we can actually price effectively for the business and our margins. But that was a great, I feel like $2,500 on consulting for that.
That's actually way cheaper than I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that was
he was very fast. He was very fast. Because he quoted me on his hourly rate, and I was like, that's a lot. And he's like, yeah, I'll be quick, though. I was like, all right. And he was.
So then that takes us on to the other side of it, right, which is tracking outbound. And I feel like people have a very warped understanding of how to effectively track outbound.
Yeah. Like, so the way that I'm big on cold calls, right? Mm-hmm. So we have our tracking sheet and, like, kind of we dissect it, because you don't want to be too broad when you're tracking metrics. You want to track what I call, like, hinge points. Okay. So, like, in a total process of a cold call, right? You make a dial, you book a meeting, right? That's the beginning
and
the end. There's so much in between that you should be focused on, because if you just this and this don't correlate, then you don't really know what is going wrong in that process. So we track, like, total dials to connects, so, like, people picking up the actual phone, and then from a connect to a conversation. So we do a permission-based opener. You probably heard me, like, beating a dead horse on doing that, but we essentially talk on someone saying yes to our pitch as a conversation. So we go dials to connects, and then from connects to conversations, and then from conversations to bookings. So we break that down in between. So if we're having a high number of connects and a low number of conversations, we know what to coach our reps on, is because people are picking up the phone, but we're not portraying our value enough in that first 15 seconds to get them onto the real important part of that call. So now we know we got to look at that part of that cold call recording. Or if they're getting a lot of convos and they're not getting a lot of book calls, then there's something wrong in our actual, like, meat of that cold call. So if we didn't track those two little metrics that may not matter, like, we wouldn't know what to coach and optimize on.
Interesting. Okay, so you're going almost level by level down.
Yeah.
Saying where is the issue that is causing the drop off?
Yeah.
How do I fix that specific point? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I take the exact same methodology or the same logic and apply it to cold email. So, like, for some reason, right, people think that open rate is, like, one of the most interesting things in the world, and it's fucking not, right? It is at best a barometer for email health. That's it, right? If your open rate, this is the internal, like, heuristic that we use within the agency, right? If your open rate drops below 40%, there is a problem. It's probably not your subject line. It's probably deliverability.
Yeah.
Subject lines, by and large, right, unless they're offensive or genuinely crap,
Yeah.
are probably going to hover around the 50% mark, right?
Yeah.
You might get up to into the 60s or the 70s if you have a good subject line and you're targeting it towards like a customer who actually is interested in buying. But like, if you're getting lower than 40%, it's probably to do with your email health. So go fix your domain health, and then we'll look at subject lines, right? The most interesting thing to track for me is not even reply rate. It's positive reply rate.
Yeah.
Because reply rate is a misnomer. If you get 100% reply rate and everyone tends to fuck off, your 100% reply rate doesn't mean much.
Or it was last week, and they're all out of offices.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So, like, it doesn't really benefit you all that much to track pure play reply rate. Right? So, within every level, you have to go down. And then what we do is, so for example, open rate is a heuristic to check domain health and, like, to see if the subject lines that we are using are resonating at all with the target market. If we get above a 65% open rate, fine, next issue. Yeah? Then, the next thing we test is email body. Right, so that is basically a heuristic to test your offer, in our minds at least, right? What are you putting in the email body? Is it interesting enough to make people want to reply? Yeah? Again, that delineates between positive and negative or neutral replies. That's fine. It's kind of like it's a lead metric, right? That these are good things, but they don't really actually end up in, anything tangible at the end.
Yeah.
Then the final one is CTA. Yeah, exactly. It's just useful data. Then the final one is your CTA. Okay, this is the one that in reality should be, quote unquote, the difference between you booking meetings and not booking meetings. If everything else remains the same, if you use the exact same offer with a different CTA, the CTA is the thing that's going to be the difference maker between you booking calls and not booking calls. Okay, so let's assume that your CTA is the thing that books you the calls, your body is what gets you replies, and your subject line is the thing that tests whether your domain is healthy and whether people give a shit about opening your domain. Fine.
What's a healthy positive reply rate for you?
Anything above 4% is like, okay, solid. Happy with that, right? Positive reply rate, 4% reply rate is like, solid. Happy with that.
Yeah.
Anything above 50% of that being positive is good.
Got it.
But, we used to have a client and we had something like a 17% reply rate just because of their offer. And then of that, 80% of them were like, yes. And then I'm like, wow, maybe we should use this for internal metrics. And then I spoke to Shani about it. He was like, no, we shouldn't. There's no way we've seen that in any other campaign. And then we literally tested it in a different market. And literally it went all the way back down to basically zero. So it's very market and industry and offer.
And it really matters on the offer too. So depending on what your package price is and your cost per acquisition and all those other things that we just talked about, you could get away with lower compared to higher. If you're selling a SaaS, you need a very high positive reply rate because you're having probably good margins but low lifetime value. So you need the high volume of booking. That's why SaaS has large sales teams, right? But if you're selling a services-based business, high ticket, maybe a 1% positive reply rate still makes you an extra 30 to 40 MRR a month.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's also something to keep, in the back of your head when you're, looking at these metrics. If your lifetime value of a client's $50,000 and you're getting 10 book calls, but it's only a 1% reply rate, you don't need to throw in the towel and change a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing too, is don't be too crazy about data, right? They're a crutch and they're an indicator, but at the end of the day, you got to look at large business metrics, what is your month over month growth? And just because we're on this podcast talking about what you should be seeing through email, at the end of the day, if something's working, keep doing it until it doesn't work. Don't keep changing stuff for the sake of changing stuff.
Yeah. And that's the other thing to talk about with that in mind. It's small sample sizes. If you send 500 emails or 500 prospects, that is not a big enough sample size for you to make any really and truly impactful change. You just don't have enough data yet, right?
Yeah.
like we do 1,000 as our minimum sample size to like make changes, right? And the first thing we do is we'll test email 1 on 1,000 people, and we'll have 4 or 5 different variants, and then whichever one wins becomes the control for the next test for emails 2 and 3. And then at that point, you have an understanding of like, okay, we know that email 1 is going to get at minimum control this many replies, this many opens, right? This many meetings booked. Now let's test a bunch of other different shit in email 1s, 2s, and 3s to see whether that continues to track out. And if
How
it
many
does,
emails do you send per sequence? What's like your average?
between 4 and 5.
4 and 5, yeah.
Yeah, 4 and 5.
You need minimum 4 or 5. Yeah.
What we do though is like if we didn't get any response at all from you after 5, you go into a long-term nurture follow-up. So we just take you out and we just put you into a longer campaign that like has, you know, step 1 and then like a 1 month later, step 2, a month later again, 6 weeks, whatever, and then you just go into like that long-term drip.
And also on those nurtures, so since it's a long wait time, like you don't need to script out 6 nurture emails. Very important, I think, is like we have like our nurtures and we build emails like monthly based off of where we're at as a business. Like if we had a new case study, we add that in there. We write a new blog post, we put that in there because it's the most recent thing. Don't like script out and then your whole thing's changed and then what you forget about it and what you're sending is irrelevant or not as relevant as it could be.
That's really great advice.
Yeah. Because like a 30-day wait period gives you 30 days to write the second email or the third email. Yeah. And hopefully you should be getting new things to share every month, right? Hopefully. But yeah, 4 to 5 emails. But it's interesting that we have the same like mini data points, hinge points of like what you should be looking at. Like if you're like, oh, I have an 80% open rate, but I have 4 replies a month, like you have this
thing. Doesn't matter. Yeah, your offer sucks.
Yeah.
People
don't it's like having a check engine light and then having like an OBD2 scanner telling you exactly what's wrong with the engine. Like just because your check engine light's on, there could be a variety of
million different things.
But if you know exactly, like that's why you should be tracking certain things, is like, I got to look at this right now compared to this, and that. And that's why like CRM is important because that's going to, you know, have your reporting and then just a good baseline understanding of like what is like a bottleneck or like something that you need to keep an eye on specifically and check those like every week. Like create an SOP for someone on your team. Like you need to check this every Friday afternoon and report on it to me.
So that's why we built MailerE the way we built it. Is because like effective testing is the single fastest way of getting better response rates and meeting book rates in cold email. That is the reality of the situation. If you do not test effectively, there's no way you are going to beat out other people who test more frequently or more effectively than you do, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I see most often when like we like look at, for example, like scripts that clients were using before they started working with us, they're testing like in, let's say, 4 variants. They're testing a new subject line and a new body and a new CTA. And I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, we're testing. I'm like, no, you're not. That's not testing. That's throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah.
What happens when one of those variants gets 10x the responses? What are you going to do now? Use that? Okay, well, so you're not testing anything. Oh, no, we'll still test. How? Would you come up with 3 other variants? Okay, of what? The body? The CTA? The subject line? Which one is it? You have no idea what led to your success.
And also something that I sometimes like, not struggle with, but I get it a lot, is like with email only, right? It doesn't really matter with cold calls because it's a conversation. With cold email, like you could have like your ace in the hole 4th breakup email is like your fire email that gets like all your responses.
Yeah.
And like, like what makes you like, do you have to keep it at 4 in your opinion? Or like, can you move it up because it's your best responding email? Or does it only work because it's email 4? Yeah. Like that's always something that like, if you get all the responses at 3 and like we got to send 4 emails and wait 11 days before this email goes out, like come on.
So the easiest way of testing that from what we've seen is to take the same like offer phrasing as email 4 and then chuck it in as email 1 or 2 in the next campaign.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say you phrased your offer differently in the breakup and it's like, this is the last email I'll send you blah, 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 blah. Whatever that blah, 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 blah is, take it and put it up to email 1 or 2 and see if the same results happen. And if they don't, then the unfortunate reality is you just needed more touch points in the sequence.
That's a good point. Yeah, because it's threaded, right? Like if they open maybe the subject line is a little bit, different, or the first message, the preview is a little different. Yeah. They could scroll up and see the other 3 emails, and that's why you're getting response. Yeah.
So that's the thing. There's a lot of variability in cold email, and people don't understand what they're doing with it, so it just turns into just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, and like cold email has a lot more like back end, like operational data points to check. Like your deliverability, hitting inbox versus Gmail versus Outlook, and like I just dropped a video on YouTube like about like cold email versus cold call. They're both great, but like the nice thing about cold calling is there's no like operation back end. You're not going to spam. I mean, your number could be blocked by spam. That's it. That's one thing you have to check. But like cold email has so many variants that even if you have a great message and a great sending platform like Melody, it could still
it can still go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why cold calling is like your fastest like to operation channel.
So it's an interesting one, right? So like the one drawback that I hear a lot when I talk about cold calling and like if they do it, why don't they do it, blah blah blah, is like they're like, oh, I can never find cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
So like, how do you go about that? Because we were talking about tools earlier, right? So like, how do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So like cold calling does come down to the quality of the data that you have, right? Because just like we said, cold email, like you could have the best script, you could have the best, cold caller, you could have high volumes, but like if you're not calling the right numbers, it's all in vain again. So that's going to be a little bit more of a pricey investment, right? Like CRMs are cheap, Apollo is cheap, and Seamless is semi-cheap. I mean, the best way to do that is, you got to use like the Cognizant Zoom Info of the world, like for like your creme de la creme data. But also it depends on like who you're reaching out to, right? Like if you're reaching out to like local business, scrape Google My Business listings.
Yeah.
They put their numbers directly there because
that's how they get their business.
That's how they get their business. If you're calling real estate, they have all their mobile numbers on there. Like if you go to Compass's website, you can get like 10,000 cells for free, right? So it depends on who you're targeting, right? And how important it is to get like a direct mobile number. But a tool that you're going to need to use if you're cold calling is called clearoutphone.io. It's credit based. It's super, super cheap. You can validate like 10,000 phone numbers for like, I don't know, 25, 30 bucks.
Like never bounce, but for phone numbers.
Exactly. So what it does is it verifies like the carrier. So it's going to tell you if it's a landline or a mobile number. So you can call it or text it. If it's a landline, you should like deprioritize it. So we go through Apollo. I've done this on client ascension calls, and we'll validate a list from Apollo. It's probably like 40% is mobile. Like you should call those 40% only, and then email the 60%. Email 100% of them, but prioritize email as a first touch point for the ones that are fixed line.
So that's super interesting. Just by virtue of in England, phone numbers that start with 01 are all landline. Phone numbers that start with 07 are all mobile. So I know off the bat whether it's mobile or landline. That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah. So if you go to like Clear Out Phone and put your number in, like it's going to tell you like it's T-Mobile or Singular or Verizon or whatever it is. So yeah, Clear Out Phone is massive. Plus they have a Zap integration, so you could actually send a list to them and they spit it out. And then with a CRM, that's why it's important, because when you upload and map out contacts in a CRM, you want to map that field of like the phone line type, and then you can sort in the CRM by only add mobiles in phone line type into this call sequence. So your salespeople aren't pissed at you. They're like, I keep calling gatekeepers. I keep calling like dial one for sales. Like that's a waste of your salespeople's time and your company's time. So like prioritize good data over bad data for cold calling. We use Cognizant and we get like a 70% match rate on like mobiles. You can also search by mobile, like in the database only.
So I know that like Cognizant is the nuclear option, right? Like that's the pay you big money, get good data.
Yeah.
Reality of the situation. First question, like how much is Cognizant? For like people who are thinking about cold calling or rely on cold calling for those, how much should they be expecting to shell out for this?
So it's probably like around $1,500 a month.
Okay, so it's not like break the bank money, but it's a significant investment.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's monthly. It's not like
It's quarterly billing.
Okay, so you pay in the best part of like $5,000.
Yeah, it's like 47 or something like that.
Okay.
Quarterly.
Yeah. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's definitely not cheap. And like for what we do is like we have to do it, right? It's like it's a necessity, right? Because we help companies cold call, right? We build cold calling teams for companies. So like data is huge. Another one we found that works is Lead Rocks. That's actually a pretty good one, honestly. We got the AppSumo deal. I don't know if it's still going on. Probably not. Lead Rocks works as well as Seamless was like your middle of the ground. I think it's like $350 a month.
Yeah.
So significantly.
Seamless does emails, right? As well.
Yeah, Seamless does emails and phones. The thing with Seamless, it's good. You have a bunch of credits. I think it's unlimited credits. Or like 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is.
It's significant enough number.
Yeah, it's significant enough. But their data is like ugly. So when you export a contact from Seamless, and we found this out like 2-3 months after using them, is they give you direct 1, direct 2, company 1, company 2, contact 1, contact 2. They give you like 6 numbers, up to 6 numbers per contact. Okay. So we were only just doing direct 1, right? Because that's the most sense. But when we started to do clear out phone for each of them, we found like a shit ton of mobile numbers in those other sections. So the data is just misclassified. So it ups your clear out phone bill, but you find like 30 to 40% more mobile numbers per your lead list. It's just kind of a pain in the ass from like a data perspective, but the data's there, so it could be worse.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, fine. So let's say someone does want to, they want the all singing, all dancing tech stack. What do they buy? What do they use? Okay,
so you're probably going to do HubSpot.
Yeah.
If you really want to like deck out your sales team, you're going to do HubSpot, and then on top of that, you're going to need a sales enablement tool. So that could be what we use, or it could be Outreach.io. It could be SalesLoft, right? So that's going to sit on top of your CRM. That's where all the dirty work's going to happen. That's where you're going to do your email sequences, your cold calls, your tasks, your whatever it is. And then those send into your HubSpot. So your HubSpot's only clean with like MQLs and SQLs. And then after that, you're probably going to want like an Asana, a ClickUp, or a Monday.com for project management. So whenever someone becomes a client, they're going to go into your project management tool with all your SOPs and your steps into your onboarding. Obviously, Slack. You're going to need Slack. You're going to need Zoom. For your conferencing, you're going to where I want PandaDoc for like automating your proposal.
I fucking love PandaDoc.
Yeah, I love PandaDoc too.
When it works, it's honestly one of the best SaaSes in the world. When it doesn't work, it's like burn down the whole world.
Their API blows.
I've heard that.
So I literally had a problem with that today. Anyway, so from the top is sales enablement tool, CRM, Slack for communication, Zoom for Zoom calls, project management tool, ClickUp, Asana, Monday.com, and then you're going to want PandaDoc for actual proposals and getting payment. Obviously, Stripe to collect invoices. I know Trello's another good tool for like project management. But really, after that, like the SaaSes can be like pretty random. Like obviously, QuickBooks is super helpful. Anything else that you use? FlowChat is also another great tool.
I was going to say FlowChat if you're using like social DMs.
A LinkedIn automation tool.
Yeah. Also, data.
And data. Data's the first
big
thing.
One.
Yeah. So Apollo is going to be your like best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I'd say Seamless is a tier above that, and then above that you're going to have like ZoomInfo, Ocean, and Cognism. Those are like your gold standard of data.
I wouldn't say I swear by it, but I'm getting pretty close to like swearing by Ocean. Ocean is phenomenal.
That's expensive though.
Yeah, that shit's like I cried. Like it's just too expensive in reality. But the what you can do with it is just absurd.
Yeah, the lookalike audience thing is crazy.
It makes lead scraping so easy. Like, it's very difficult to find a niche that I genuinely can't find on Ocean.
Yeah.
So,
And like when you do it on a discovery or a demo call, you whip out the
it
Ocean.
blows their mind.
Yeah, like you go before the call, you look at their testimonials, you queue up like 2 lookalike audiences, like, oh yeah, here you go. This is how we're gonna find your competitors of, who you've already had success with. They're like, holy shit, I know all of these companies. Yeah. And what we do is we use Ocean and Cognism, right? So we take all the domains from Ocean and we load them up and then cross-reference the domain with title and whatever else. And then it's like, cool, like here's the CMO of all of these companies. Export, boop. There you go. Like this is what we're going to use for your campaigns. It's like shit. Where's the Panda Doc?
All right. So now let's say budget's not unlimited, right? So smaller sales team, maybe smaller marketing team. Maximum 10 people in the organization, a couple of people in sales. What do you build? What do you buy from the ground up? Same question again.
Go high level first.
Yeah, I would agree.
Go high level first. They actually just added in native email and native phone, so you don't need Twilio or Mailgun, which will further save your costs. So high level is going to be able to do your sales enablement. It's going to be able to do your CRM. It's able to do your marketing. It's going to be able to do your client, fulfillment and click up type actions. So that's going to be like your all-in-one tool, but you're still going to need the data. You can't really get around not investing in data because that's where everything starts. So data first, then high level, then Slack and Zoom. That's like the smallest stack I could see.
Yeah, I agree. And then really and truly, it's about optimizing within that stack, right? So like we use high level as our CRM, we use MailerE as our sending platform, mainly because like the sending in high level, unless you know what you're doing, can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Such a pain in the ass.
It does require you to understand exactly what you're doing, or pay someone to do it for you. But
I've had to get really nerdy to be able to do that, like dedicated IPs and like all the stuff.
Hassle.
Inboxy is actually fire. Shout out Nick Abraham.
Yeah, check out Nick Abraham. Inboxy is great.
Because they have a warm up with Mailgun.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So like for us now, it's basically exactly that. We use Notion for project management, which I know is a little bit of like a kind of a dirty word in the project management world, but it's just so helpful because we have all of our SOPs and we can link and deep link into them. And it's helpful, right?
We have client Notions.
Oh, interesting.
So they can add questions and things there.
So we have that, but we don't give our clients access to their Notion, but that's actually pretty smart. Like, stuff like that.
Yeah, you just share that one Notion.
Just share that one page, yeah. And then the reason that like MailerE for us is so pivotal is because it allows us to test more effectively, right? Going back to the stuff that we were talking about earlier, like I can get better results for clients faster if I can test more effectively, and MailerE allows me to do that, right? It's also like little stupid things that we just got annoyed with when we use other like sales enablement tools. You know when you import a CSV, you have to go in and click all of the little like field tags to make them match up? Yeah, like you just upload it into MailerE, and so long as you have the custom field there, it'll auto-match it. Little things like that. We were like, how can I shave like seconds off this time? When I
also, in regards to that, is don't create your custom fields until you pick a data tool, because each data tool exports the columns with a different name. Yeah. So like, I've done that before. So like, phone is phone number, and it doesn't auto match. Like, yeah, it's just like a little thing that I hate. Also, another thing to invest in, like not more like hardware, is like a good webcam, a good computer, multiple screens, and a mic.
I bought the MacBook in the end.
You get the MacBook?
I didn't buy the MacBook. Yeah. I just bought the MacBook. I couldn't be bothered. Like literally, like my Mac today and yesterday have just been acting up.
You got to get the Mac Mini, dude. I have both. It's great.
I'm not going to spend an extra like £600 for no reason. That's just a complete
year tax write-off.
No, that's just America. My tax year is April.
Oh, yeah. You have until April then to get the Mac Mini.
But yeah, so yeah, I agree. And I've dealt with this Mac I got 2015. So it's had like 7 years of wear, and it's done fucking well for 7 years, but it comes a time where you just need to have a better Mac, and like it makes a massive difference.
Also, a huge thing for me, hardware-wise, is speakers, not headphones.
Interesting.
So I have 2 speakers here that you're coming out of. So I don't
Yeah.
need to have headphones. I don't need to charge them. There's no Bluetooth. There's no wires. It's so
Yeah.
much more free, and my head doesn't hurt at the end of the day. Because like Bluetooth, they not to get like fucking
Yeah.
red pill, but they emit
RF
Bluetooth waves in
RFI
your brain.
into your brain.
Yeah, like I'm on calls all day long. So like
That's why I did wired.
my ears hurt. So yeah, speakers, webcam, microphone, big thing. Saves you.
100%. All right. That's kind of a nerdy version of stand-up sales this week. We kind of got quite deep into the tech and the analytics and a bunch of different shit.
Yeah, but it parlays. Like, you need to be a little bit of a nerd when you're wearing all the hats, right? Like, if you're an employee, you need your boss or someone else to be the nerdy person. But if it's your shop, like, it's necessary evil.
You gotta know this stuff.
You got to know this stuff. But cool. Yeah, I think that was helpful. Episode 9. What are we thinking?
I don't know. I kind of want to open it up and see. We'll do a couple of Twitter polls this week. See what people want us to talk about. And then we'll just leave it up to the people.
Yeah, or comment on this YouTube video.
Yeah.
With questions. But awesome. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, sir.
That's a wrap.